Hello, welcome to Bound of Truth. I am Chris.
And this is Jonathan.
So before we start off, it's kind of funny. I say Chris a lot because I prefer to go by Chris, but Jonathan, you always call me Christopher, but somehow I'm comfortable with that. I don't know why. I think that could be a new podcast. Why is Christopher or Chris, me, comfortable with my brother calling me Christopher when I don't like everybody else calling me Christopher?
Yeah. Well, I honestly, I just like three syllable names better. Uh, I mean, I don't know. I like the name. I like Christopher. I like better as a three syllable name rather than shorted out to one syllable with Chris. But I can't really tell you why. Just like just like the way it sounds.
That's
Sounds better than
deep.
saying Chris.
That's deep, bro. That's deep, man. Well, hey, everybody. So I know it's been a little bit. You heard my last podcast. It was about 28 minutes talking about David Grush and the UAP hearings a bit. And, Jonathan had some engagements. He's a family man. I'm not. I'm a loner. Jonathan's just a father, a brother, a mother, a lover.
No,
No.
no, 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 no.
So
Just
he's
just
got
just a dad.
he's got a lot of hats, but minus those other ridiculous things. But anyway, so I know we were going to talk about doing time on Monday, but again, life happens, and like we talked about, when we first did the episode. Hey, it could be a week each time, it could be 2 weeks, and I think everyone understands. Hey, life happens, but we're still committed to the cause and wanted to do our part and do our promise and continue this fun journey that we are excited that all of you are a part of with us on, and blessed to have you to listen and share your input. So, hey, before we start, man, how's everything going, dude? How's life treating you? You don't have to go into too much details. I know you're a very humble man. How's everything going, bud?
Uh, good. I mean, I've just anything I've really changed in is I started doing this program uh called Exodus 90, which
Okay.
has been real interesting. It's a program. It is faith based. It involves basically spending a little more time, dedication, and silence and prayer on every single day. I try to do at least 20 minutes of silent and then pray, and then I pray a rosary every day for a certain individual or person that's put on my heart. And then also too, it's kind of similar to Lent, so like no eating meat on Wednesday and then no meat eating meat on Fridays. So I've been pretty good with that. The one thing that is very hard is on Fridays you're supposed to take cold showers. So I took my first cold shower on Friday, and it literally took the breath out of me when I jumped in the shower.
Oh my
But
goodness.
what I can honestly say is that was it was an amazing feeling afterwards taking a cold shower. I mean, it was the greatest jolt of coffee I could ever take. It was just like my body was like shocked into energetic mode, and I felt great all day long. So I wouldn't suggest doing cold showers every day because it is intense, but it definitely was a cool experience. So it's fun. It's something new to do. It helps me. I wouldn't say it is strictly what my faith is based on, but it's definitely a good relationship uh, intensifier for me and my relationship with God. And also too, it is a great understanding too. I think what I got out of it too that day was an understanding of what it's somewhat like to that cold shower, to have a closeness to people that have no warm water to bathe with at all. So it's just, we take a lot of things for granted.
Mhm.
I can say that. And that was probably the biggest one for me, was that not taking a hot shower, but a cold shower was definitely an eye opener for me. But other than that, that's pretty much what my week consisted of. That's been a little different. So, but it was good. It was good. That I had fun. I had fun with that. So, how about your week, Christopher? How was it?
My week, well, busy. Getting our office to move to a new location next to 2.5, 3 weeks. I actually work today, this Saturday. Me, unlike your awesome profession, I don't have children. I have four cats, two guinea pigs, four chickens. Uh, and actually one's playing with the cord right now. Please get down. Thank you, Addie. Anyways,
Is that
no,
the guinea pig?
yeah, no, that was actually Addie the cat, the black cat. She
Oh,
she
okay.
uh, she always, when I get home, she always leaves me gifts on the bed. Thank God it's not poop. It's cat toys, which is pretty cool.
It's
Anyways,
fun.
but anyways, no, it's been a good week. Just busy with just getting our move going and just taking care of our clients and so forth. But just really blessed, man, to have what we have and just try to find each day to keep it driven, keep driving and so forth. I think, it's funny, I'm going deep with their question too much, but it's like each day when I get up, I have to find a way to either to choose to be bitter or better. And I always want to try to be better. I think you are the same person as well in that, because I think at times, when I see people who are going to work and we're doing our kind of recycled process of things, that we feel like we might be stuck in a rut and so forth. And I've had days like that where it feels that way. But it's just trying to find that purpose and knowing that, what, we still have a choice, and try to find, how can I impact somebody's life each day, even if it's the smallest thing, because we don't know what goes on in their lives, and help us become better people. So that's a deep question. That's a deep answer for a very easy question. So but anyways, it was a good week, man. I'm still here. I still got my hair. I'm good. But other than that, but yeah. So as promised, we're going to talk about time. There's no any new news that I've was research finding out. I've been having a busy week, as I stated. But before we begin to our subject and topic of time, where who knows where that's going to lead us with our conversation. Again, hit us up, Jonathan and I, at boundtotruth34@gmail.com, boundtotruth34@gmail.com, or on Facebook, Bound to Truth. We would love to have your thoughts, opinions, stories, experiences, feedback, anything. Again, this platform is for you. Like Jonathan and I said before, we started it, but this was something we want everybody to contribute and be part of. Anything you want to add to that, or are we good to go, bud?
I am good to go.
Okay, let's talk about time. So I did some research myself and some notes, because obviously I have time, no pun intended, and you have kids. So
So I have no time.
that's right. That's right. So what I wanted to start off with, and then we'll kind of build from here a little bit, is what is time? What is the meaning, right? And if you ask somebody off the cuff what time means, we're going to get different answers, some simplistic, maybe more deeper than others. But something I research on time is the time. Here's the meaning that I found out with time: the indefinite continued progress of existence and events in the past, present, and future, regarded as a whole, or the measured or measurable period during which an action, process, or condition exists or continues.
Mhm.
There you go. That's the definition of time.
Yep. That's the literal definition of time. Yeah. Well, it's up to you. What do you want to talk about on time? Any fun stuff about it? Any unusual information, or
Well,
you
well,
want to give your
so
perspective?
well, it's funny when I read the indefinite, like indefinite, right? It's so like time's indefinite, is it? If it's indefinite, then how does time exist? Right?
Well,
So,
do you want to explain what the word indefinite means to
well,
individuals like myself who don't exactly know the true definition of that?
I'm not even sure if I know the definition of indefinite. What is indefinite? Indefinite. Okay. I'm
It's a
pretty
lasting for an unknown or unstated length of time. Okay, yeah.
okay. So thank you. Jeez, Manila. Thank you, my smart brother from the same mother. Almost said another mother. That'd been bad. Sorry, mom. We love you. So to me, it's like, okay, time has a beginning and an end, right?
Hmm.
So how does indefinite fit the picture? Right?
Hmm.
So it's like, okay, if time has a beginning and end, then how is it indefinite? Does it mean time is, does time actually exists? One of the things I think about, that's the definition as humans we're putting on, but are we limited it by our definition when we put the second word is the indefinite? I mean, heck, it could be the first word, indefinite.
Yeah.
Okay. And then when it says continued progress of existence and events in the past, present, and future, regard it as a whole. So when I hear as a whole, I think of gosh, we Portuguese guys, right? We love our food, right? So I'm not looking at, like, I'm looking at a plate, right? When I have my plate, I have, like, say, for Thanksgiving. I have my mashed potatoes, my stuffing, and my turkey, but I put it as in a plate. I don't put it in line, right? So when it says as a whole, what does that mean in a whole? Does that mean in a whole from start to finish, or just in whole like linear? You know?
Mhm.
So
Linear, as in one event after another, correct?
well, one event after another, but here's the thing. What if the events are how we perceive time in our bodies, right? We're like our personal experience. We're starting from the beginning of our birth to where we're at today. But does that mean it can't be experienced all at the same time, all at the same moment? I mean,
Yeah.
because it says it's all as a whole, right? So instead of me eating my plate of food from like, okay, and again, I'm OCD, so I do eat things one at a time. So like, if I go to McDonald's, I have my fries, my chicken nuggets, and my Big Mac, right? But if I wanted to eat all at once, I would eat them all at once. But when it says as a whole, is there a room for a possibility that time can be exist in a whole? So ever heard that show Land Before Time?
Yes, I do.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. So in that show, and there was a movie with Will Ferrell that was done with it. There was a different dimension where they crossed over, where everything from the past, present, future all existed at one moment,
Yes.
that same land.
Hmm.
So that's my thing. Is like, is that just a different? Is there a different dimension of time? We live in this existence of time that we experience because of the playing field that we're on. But there other ways to experience it or other dimensions that either live maybe future to backwards, you know what I'm saying, or as a whole. I hope you're following me on that. That's kind of my first beginning.
Well, yeah, no, yeah, yeah. That's great because I have a little thing I wrote about time, but mine's gonna be more of a big biblical perspective on it. In the sense I'm gonna tie the Bible in with it.
Sure.
And I'm not gonna use uh any Bible references exactly like any scripture quotes or any of that kind of stuff. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna tie the Bible, and this is purely theory of mine. You know, I wrote it down, and it's a spiritual too relationship uh,
Okay.
involved with it too. If you want me to, I can share it right now if you
Dude,
want.
platform's
I
yours,
didn't.
buddy. Go for it.
Yeah, I didn't really know when to share it in the segment, but I feel like sharing it now because you're kind of going on the same page of what I've been pondering for some years now. Okay.
Right. Right.
Okay. So I put the time it has, for the most part, been taught to us as being an irreversible thing,
Mhm.
that it cannot go backwards, uh, but we continue living in the present and inching forward to the future each minute and each second of each day. And but I believe time is constantly coexisting, that the past is always happening in front of our eyes, and the present day and the future as well. And my belief is all time, past and present, are stacked upon one another, and our close relationship with God, our Father in heaven, allows us to see the layers through both empathetic and sympathetic eyes, and that the key to all this is forgiveness. One could only understand this if they understood or know our Father in heaven, and which is only done by knowing the Son, Jesus Christ. But the ability to see the past, present, and future together is not used for selfish gain, but used for the healing of our soul by forgiving others as Jesus and our Father in heaven has forgiven us. So basically, what I'm going at with that, I wrote that down. So if it sounded like I was reading off something, I was.
No, that's beautifully
I
said,
just
bud.
want, I had a during some of my times of an hour of peace and quiet I spent inside the church. This kind of got brought to me, and not saying this is for sure given by God or nothing, because I don't have that ability whatsoever, but it was something that was kind of, this is why I wanted to kind of jump in and talk about this. So we talk about like time coexisting together all as one. Now, my last my experience the last few years has made me start to see other individuals' lives around me, and seeing other individuals' lives around me, I started seeing, when I started becoming more empathetic and sympathetic to individuals and what they're going through rather than just always focusing on my life,
Mhm.
I started seeing a connection with every single individual, realizing they have a very similar life as mine. You know,
Mhm.
it's almost like I could if I was just open about certain things, I'd find individuals that had the same thing going on in their life. Okay. Um, and I felt for a while like, man, this person has a similar story to my father, or similar story to my mother, or similar story to my brother. And I just started seeing every person in front of me as like a brother, sister, mother, father, and I started having this like revelation of like, okay, what if God gives us those opportunities to come closer to the people that we might not have the strongest relationships of, even within our family, like say a mother or father relationship to a son or a daughter. And we started, God allows us to have the opportunity to see through other people, maybe the way things went down in the past for them through that present person's life, and start to realize that some of these things that we think our fathers or mothers or other people in relationships failed us on, we're actually trying to do their best.
Mhm.
Okay. It
Mhm.
might even be through your own life. And now I know it sounds odd. It's weird. I'm not talking about living in the past, present, or like seeing the past, present, future in a way of where we can see exactly the occurrences of the people and their physical presence going on. But I think in a spiritual way, when you start to have that compassion that Christ did, you
Mhm.
start to see individuals in a light of like, I don't know, like just seeing there a lot, like many lives played out before you were born in front of you. Does
Mhm.
that make sense?
Yeah.
It's kind of, it's maybe it's something you have to experience to understand, but it made me realize like, okay, well, if this is the case, where's the Bible lay into this too?
Right.
And I honestly, I believe too, depending on where we're at in our lives, if we're constantly in a state of fear, what's our first go to? You know, Revelations in the Bible. And when we constantly read into Revelations, we're constantly trying to tie Revelations in with the current day. And you can every single time. There's so many things you can put together with what's going on today on how it ties in with Revelations. And then automatically, when you start doing that, and from my experience, you start living in Revelations. Like you
Mhm.
start living in the future of the end of times. It's really weird, but it's like it almost feels like it's exactly that.
Mhm.
If you start living in previous parts, like the Exodus of the Bible, like the Genesis, and all these different things that occurred before Christ. I mean, there's so many similarities between that too, right? With different places, different things going on. I mean, it in my opinion, the Bible is almost like a time guide, you know? And
Right.
really, what part of the Bible do you want to live in? You know, for me, I found more comfort and compassion in the time of Christ and Him walking this earth. So, in my last few years with this going on in my life, I started tying myself in with that more and more and more, because no matter what, I don't have an idea of exactly when the world would end, but it's comfort to know that if it did, I'm secure in what I have in my faith and my relationship with God. And I know I know it's kind of hard to understand what I'm kind of talking about here.
No, no,
It might
actually,
sound a little crazy, but
no, actually, I have a thought here when you're saying that, and let me know if I'm on track with you or not. Let's
mhm.
minus our technology advancement, right? Let's talk about human behavior and character, right? Do you think, with that being said, right? Do you think, okay, human behavior, like you know how people say that empires rise and fall, right? There's nothing new, right? Under the sun, right?
Yeah.
And I'm wondering if maybe because of our human behavior, that time recycles itself, or I'm calling time, our behavior recycles itself in that time until we break the chain to a different uncertain future, right? So you
So
talk, so you
that's
talk, yeah,
yeah.
sorry, go ahead. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? It's like
No, that's perfect. I'm glad you said that.
yeah,
I'm glad
because
you said that.
it's like I think about Rome, right? Rome's been around 250 years and high rise and it fell, right? We have the United States, we're almost at the cusp, we're having some issues, right? There's a lot of rains and falls, but yet the human behavior is because of the repeat of human behavior, history is repeating itself, and somehow we as human haven't learned. So it's like we're living in this circle of time of repeatedness. but it's I wonder if it's one of those things where it's like in the time, and I'm kind of going off subject here. See, we're going crazy here. It's like because we live in such an uncertainty, we repeat our mistakes because we know what the aspect's going to be. At least we can control it in our minds in a very crazy mind thing. It's like, how people, it's like I want to do good to myself, but it's unknown, so I don't know how to do it. But if
Mhm.
I do these behaviors, at least I know what to expect, so I can control the situation.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But maybe that's too far fetched, but I'm kind of seeing that that's kind of tying to what you're talking about. Maybe similar to it, but
So you talk about like time, how it recycles itself. I couldn't. That's a great example. That's exactly kind of where I'm going at too with it.
Mhm.
But it's about breaking that cycle. Now, obviously, I do feel that when Christ came, he was one of those cycle breakers, right? He broke
Right,
that cycle.
right,
He broke that cycle. He interrupted. He destroyed it, right? Because it was always set for doom. Humanity was set for doom constantly until he came. It was set for doom. So we were constantly going to be in a state of this cycle of destruction in our lives. And now, when you latch on, if unless you have that relationship, if you latch on to anything of destruction in this world, life, this world looks destructive no matter what, always. But it's like when you start to look at life the way Christ did, it breaks that cycle. I can't explain how, but it's done through compassionate love. I know that for a fact. It's done through being able to forgive individuals that you normally would resent with wholeheartedly and cast aside and hate and bitter. And honestly, a lot of times when we make bad decisions based off of fear, a lot of the people before us made decisions based off of fear, and you can see the same decisions being made in the same situations by several different people because of fear. You get where I'm going with this? So
yeah,
it
absolutely.
is Jesus was a cycle breaker with that, right? His life was a cycle breaker with that. So time, in my opinion, like it is recycling itself until you come to that relationship, then it stops. Okay. Then it stops because you're able to view life completely different. Time doesn't seem as relevant, actually, if
Right,
anything.
right,
Time actually seems irrelevant. If anything, the only thing time is useful for in my eyes at that point is being able to just finally let go of things, having the time that you need to let go of things, spend time with the individuals you never had that opportunity to spend
right,
time with because you had these destructive relationships with them, or forgiveness, right?
right.
That's why I feel like time is beneficial because we don't know how long we're going to be here on Earth
And
ourselves.
you know what? Can I share this too? In addition to piggyback what you're saying is and this is an if I haven't said before, I have OCD, everybody, and OCD is
Really?
oh, shut up, shut up. So, and I'll explain why that's relevant to this moment. And when I say OCD, it's not about the typical washing your hands or walking over cracks. And I'm not making fun of those who have that. I mean, this stuff sucks, right? But what I'm trying to relate to is with time, because I would allow time to control me on those things where it's like I gotta do this, I gotta do that, I gotta do this. I don't have time for this, I don't have time for that. And what I do is I feel like for me, I allow time to take over and make myself more selfish, right? And I'm trying to learn to ignore the term time and live in the moment.
There you go. That's perfect.
Live
That's
in the
perfect.
live in the moment, because you know what? Because you know what? When people say, "Well, you don't have much time for this, you don't have much time for that," you know what? I'm here in the moment, here and now. Time. I'm not against time. I'm not saying time's bad. And it's funny. This is kind of going off the things I have written down my notes, but I want to go with the flow with what we're talking about. Time is a great way to keep yourselves accountable, just for in the minimal structural things. But I think it also could be a great distraction to ignore the things that are important for us in front of us. When it could be family, our loved ones, our friends, those things that we need to live in the moment. The person who may be across the street who is hurt. I mean, you think of a great story, the Good Samaritan, right?
Yeah.
I think there's a good implication of how there's these Jewish people walking and they're like, well, I don't, oh, this person's a sinner. Well, I don't have time. I'm gonna be late. And I kind of think of that. It's like, wait a minute, what does time have to do with the person who's hurting?
Yeah.
This is the
Exactly.
moment. If there's an
Mhm.
accident in the road, the person and I'm selfish thinking this was my God, like what's up there, and I want to be honest. When I go to work, right, at those times, sometimes we run across the accident, right? And you know what my selfish thought thinking, and this is my again my OC brain. I might be late for work.
Yeah.
Instead of me like, God, I hope everybody's okay. Because I'm so focused on being on time.
Hmm.
And I just kind of
Yeah.
like I did that just I don't know if that kind of just blew my mind a little bit. I know it sounds silly, but it's just like, wow, how
Yeah. Yeah.
manipulated, you know.
Yeah, yeah. Actually, you're kind of going a different route that actually I kind of really enjoy right now
Mm.
about the subject of time. I mean, time is very mystical in its way of like not mystical, but is misunderstood. We use it as an increment of like units and all that stuff as far as we try to calculate it, right?
Mm.
But in reality, time is it kind of can be a controlled device
Hmm.
for individuals. It's an anxiety build. It builds anxieties in individuals, and once they get dead set on time being the ultimate master of everything, they allow it to control every aspect of their lives. Now, if you live outside of time, you start to live within the experience and the moment, right? And I'm not talking about like just YOLO, like
Right.
you only live.
Yeah.
No, I'm talking about like taking those moments to do something outside of your comfort zone of your habits that you do every single day.
Right.
Okay, because you only have so much time to do this in the day and do that in the day. But when it comes down to it, you're trying to control every aspect of your life based off of an increment that's told to tell us when we can and when we can't do things.
Right.
And that's such a control device, and it's also a way for us to feel like we have control, but we really don't. But when you break out of that, and you break out of that selfishness of trying to have control because of the time that's limited in your hands, you are able to experience those moments like stopping for somebody who's on the side of the road and taking care of them and making sure they're okay, or even just saying a prayer. I mean, you
Yeah.
might not be able to stop and you might not be able to do anything. Cops might be there and the ambulance might be there. They might take care of things because that's their job. But you could still do like a prayer, sign of the cross, something to indicate like, hey, or to show that, hey, you know what, no matter what, I'm gonna just make sure I want to throw a blessing to that person's way,
Yeah.
you know, because that doesn't require us uh, uh um doing anything more than just taking that moment to do it,
Right.
right?
Right.
What and it's and the thing is people are always that's the biggest currency. If you had if you had the ability, it's funny, but if you had the ability to have the biggest amount of currency in the world, like the thing with the most value tied to it, more than any dollar amount that anyone could buy, if you were able to give somebody a minute more
Hmm.
and they could buy it, they would buy it. It would be worth an endless amount.
Time.
That's how that
Yeah.
you get what I'm saying?
Yep.
Because when we feel like we lost that time,
Well,
we
because you have
start to
time
live
to,
in
you have time.
regret.
If it's like if I can buy time with $1 billion to more time to earn this much, yeah, absolutely, absolutely,
Yeah,
absolutely.
it's crazy, but yeah. So there's lots of. So I don't know what subjects you had on other subjects on you had on time. I'd like to hear something you wrote down. So
Yeah,
maybe something with any scientists or anything.
yeah, I do actually. But before I go to the subject, but I just want to say I gotta say, Jonathan, I love how we're starting this conversation. I think it's beautiful. I think it's personal. I think it opens everybody's minds. One thing I do want to say is to everybody, we still have a responsibility with our jobs, right? So I don't want everybody thinking like, oh, time is just a subjective thing. It's about the experience, man. No, no. We all have a
Yeah, it's the
responsibility.
man, it's the man trying to keep us down.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Listen. We all have a responsibility to work as a team, and there's great and structure is important, right? Teamwork and structure is important. When we talk about time with our personal lives, is what do we do with our personal time, and how that affects others in those moments. Again, don't miss those moments. Enjoy those loved ones. Enjoy all the little things that are so important in our lives. That's what that. just like a seed can grow a cornfield or a fruit field or any of the plants that we eat and so forth and grow, time's the same way. Enjoy those moments and let that seed grow in your heart to enjoy it. Okay. But yeah, I love where this is going, man. This is great. So I am not going to go even. I was going to go who invented time, but you know what? I'm not even going to go there because I'm past that. So, one of the things I want to talk about is like space and time. How does it work, right?
Mhm.
So, I'm trying to read my notes because the reason I have a hard time reading my notes because I write really sloppily and too fast. Let's see here. So, how does space and time work? Let's see. Okay, here we go. Sorry. What do you call it? Decipher the Christianese language I have here. So, how does space and time work? Um, they depend on the motion of the observer who measures them. Light is more fundamental than either. Though this was about gravity with time, space and time are universal forms of the existence of matter, the coordination of the objects. So me, I don't know what that means, but that's what I found here.
Yeah.
All I know is I feel stupid and I'm putting the dunce hat on. I know that I'm not sure how light really, I guess maybe that light is probably the best fundamental how time is measured because people like light years, right? Light years of time. It's the fastest thing to
Mhm.
move speeds. But I did find something I think that is very interesting when it comes to time interdimension if you're open to it.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So this is time and interdimension. Time dimension is a determination of time. Time is referred to as the fourth dimension. Remember that, the fourth dimension. Okay. We live in a three-dimensional world, right? But it's the fourth dimension. Okay. So, but it is not to imply that it is a spatial dimension. A temporal dimension is one way to measure physical change. Time is our fourth dimension in a three-dimensional space. We can't physically see it. So
Mhm.
we have the dimensions, right? We were a three-dimensional being, right? So the only thing that we have that's two dimensions, like example, are shadows, right? So we live in a three-dimensional being, but we have this thing that we create called time that supposedly is the fourth dimension, which I thought was like, okay, that's interesting. Um, so what do you think about that? I know that's kind of a lot, but time being time referred to as the fourth dimension, is it because we can't see it? We can experience it, I guess, but claim it's a fourth dimension. Any thoughts?
Okay.
We can move on, but yeah.
So first, to understand what you're asking is what is the fourth dimension? What
Mhm.
exactly is the fourth dimension?
Mhm.
So that is what I'm going to Google right now because I don't know.
In Google, we trust, not the dollar bill.
Yeah, on Google, yeah, we kind of trust. You'll okay. The fourth dimension space is the mathematical extension of the concept of three-dimensional space. The to three-dimensional space is simplest possible abstraction of the observation that one needs only three numbers called dimensions. Okay, that's not going to be useful to me. Okay, so I'm not exactly sure what the fourth dimension is. The simple terms for it, the fourth dimension is defined as a space containing coordinates beyond length, width, and depth. Therefore, it is an extension of the third dimension and provides more range of motion for particles. Ooh, that's interesting.
Mhm.
So it's the fourth dimension almost sounds as if it contains the three dimension
Mhm.
in a way. Um, so
So time
that
being
means
like the
if something was
a
able,
shell of our
yeah, if
of the three
something was
dimension.
able to live in the fourth dimension, it would be able to observe what's going on in three dimension without having anybody observing the fourth. It's like it to me, it almost feels like one can see the other while the other can't.
Like a
Um,
VCR, like we could put a tape in a VCR. We're the fourth dimension outside watching a movie.
yeah, that's a great example. That's actually a perfect
I
example.
dumbed it down, man. You're
Yeah, that's a perfect example. That
right.
actually makes more sense. So yeah.
Yeah.
So basically, and another, if the fourth dimension actually does exist, we are the television series.
Mm-hmm.
Boom, mind blown. So, you know, it's wow. So basically, TV, television shows, all these different shows can almost in a way be their own three-dimensional universes. I know
It's
that sounds
it,
very
it
weird and
it's a
complicated,
possibility,
but if
but
we,
we'll get to more of that in a moment. But yeah,
yeah,
it's a
yeah,
possibility, right?
yeah. So it's an interesting concept. I actually really like it. But also too, not saying that maybe we like, so for example, when I talk about how I feel like time is stacked upon each other, right?
Right.
So we could be possibly individuals in a three-dimensional physical realm here, able in a spiritual way be the fourth dimension at the same time, but not to our present self, but to the past or the future
Mm-hmm.
through others,
Hmm.
others living out others' lives that were previous to ours, or maybe to the future to ours.
Mm-hmm.
In a spiritual way, their story plays out in front of us through people that we might not know, but we will come to know either in the future or have known from the past, or maybe didn't know, that might even be like someone we're related to. All right. We might see our great grandparents' life unfold in front of us through another individual's life themselves. That's what I was trying to get at when I was bringing up that subject.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so in reality, it's almost like we all coexist with one another in different times. It's like we can finally participate and have that compassion for those people that maybe we thought were these terrible people because so and so said this, so and so that. In the spiritual way, we're able to see their life unfold in front of us and realize, wow, these people had it. They went through this, this, and this. No wonder they're this way. You get what I'm saying?
Right.
It's interesting. I mean, I'm not saying have sympathy for the devil. I'm saying have sympathy for the human.
Right.
You get what I mean?
Yep.
The individuals become a certain way for certain reasons. Okay. Um, and that right there, in a way, could be us living in a fourth dimension when we're able to obtain that. Now, I thought I was crazy when I was thinking this. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Go for it.
So I thought this for a while, but I decided to look up Nikola Tesla's theory on time. Okay, because I like Nikola
All right.
Tesla. I thought he was
Yeah.
I thought he was a highly intelligent individual. He was actually very spiritual. Rather, most people don't realize that he was.
Well,
Uh,
that makes him successful, but also a threat to
yeah.
the industry, right?
Well, his family. I want to say his family, and I could be wrong because I did read this back in a book about him, uh, and it was talked a little bit about his past as a child, where I think he was doing anointing of the sick with his family during the Black Plague
Mm-hmm.
when he was a child. So his family would go around doing some type of involvement in the church to help people during this crisis. It could have been the Black Plague, it could have been a different disease, but it was definitely a big one. Does that make sense? So
Yeah.
he was a very spiritual individual. He was born in a church family. Okay, but what I thought was interesting is this theory I've had on time for quite a few years now. My concept behind it. I read later that there was an article where Tesla stated that he was able to see the past, present, and future simultaneously.
Wow. Really?
Isn't That's a trip, right? So,
Land of the lost, buddy.
huh?
Land of the lost. Telling you.
Well, see, Nikola. It doesn't surprise me though, and I don't think Nikola Tesla saw this through an invention. I believe this man saw this through a spiritual ability. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
he maybe like when we talk about that veil, maybe that veil really is like kind of a cover over some of this stuff going on, like what we're not supposed to see, some of us maybe be able to see, and
Well,
it's
it's like
it's
here's the
confusing.
stage and here's the curtain.
Yeah, it's exactly.
Yeah.
So, or even that idea of movie, us being the viewers and us watching a movie,
Mm-hmm.
probably but not in the way we would think like that, but that's a great concept.
Mm-hmm.
But Nikola Tesla was definitely, I mean, as this man said, this is what was occurring in his life. I believe it because this guy he was beyond his capabilities compared to any other man as far as like what we were thinking of trying to create at the time. He was just this guy was just way like this guy was living 300 years in the future.
Yeah.
We still use his invention. I mean, we'll have to do a segment on this guy, honestly.
Oh well, I'll say this. Yeah, we definitely have to do a segment of this guy because let's just say on a side note, just a side note, the guy was pretty much destroyed by Thomas Edison, who was backed up by J.P. Morgan Chase and other people because his stuff was free energy and their stuff was fossil fuel stuff. Again,
Yeah.
a whole other segment, but I agree with you. Go ahead.
Yeah. So, when I read that, it made me feel more comfortable on what I was kind of going at with it, right? That made me more confident in even bringing it up in this segment because I thought to myself, okay, well, then I can't be that crazy if a man of this stature was thinking the same thing or feeling the same thing, right? And I don't think it's because I'm anything special, Christopher. I think it's really just it's the distractions around us. When you start to eliminate the distractions around you, you'd be amazed what you come across in this world, right? Reality is a whole lot more entertaining and true and beneficial to our soul and our livelihood than watching shows or watching television or playing games. And those things are enjoyable, don't get me wrong, but when you live outside those, you start to experience, again, like you said, time differently too, in a way.
Right.
You experience time differently. You acknowledge things, you acknowledge people, you start to participate in things you never would have participated before
Well, and you
in
become
other
more
individuals' lives.
selfish. You become more
Yeah.
self-absorbed and more selfish because now it's a new drug. The drugs back then and the stuff was like, hey, alcohol, weed, cocaine, all stuff. The new drugs is what we have with our technology and what we have when it comes to all this accessibility, right? Yeah, we're
Mhm.
spending our time on this, but we're losing the moments on what's important.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's amazing too. Like one thing I learned also, Christopher, is when you're living in a mindset too, also with money, it also can be a distraction too, because you're living on a different set of terms in life.
Right.
Everything you do has to be a financial decision of making the smart move, right? Which is
Right.
understandable. It's like it's trying living, I can say this right now, living in the concept of money being the main fixed thing in your life, you start to live more in the future. Honestly, you live in the future
Right.
way too much, and you're
Right.
never going to even experience the present. So
Right.
it's unfortunate. Some men made great money by living in the future. They've created these empires of making good financial decisions. But I mean, most of the stories I've ever read by some of these guys, some of them, you know, didn't figure out until way later in life what was actually valuable, right? But that's a whole nother thing. But no, yeah. So Nikola Tesla, I think he just was a man that was able to detect the present, because I think in a way he had a compassion for individuals because he wanted to create something for them to be able to live more, probably a more comfortable life without having to worry about warmth and lighting and all those luxuries that he probably didn't have as a child.
Hmm.
You know, um, but anywho, yeah. So, I mean, there's great things we could talk about him, the great his concept of time. Actually, if anything, there's a great conversation about. Okay, so there was a topic that he actually invented a time machine at one point. I don't know if you heard that.
No, I haven't, but I'm not surprised if he did. The guy made a lot of stuff.
Okay, so
Yeah.
you got to hear this story. Um, Now there is. Okay, so I don't know how true a lot of this is. Okay, I'm going to share my version of the story, and it could be a little, it's up for criticism. And I'd love for people to give me feedback if I'm wrong about it. So when Nikola Tesla died, there was conversations about the government ceasing his or taking hold of his inventions. You
Yep, I
know,
know that. I know about that. Yep.
um, he went and they went in and basically gathered all his stuff, all his information, all his paperwork, and there was either a document or maybe possibly a machine that he had that was for time traveling.
Hmm.
Uh, Now the government at the time, had trusted individuals that they'd use to go and send out all this information to basically have another engineer basically re-engineer reverse engineer
Mhm.
whatever he created.
Mhm.
And supposedly one of the individuals that was given this was the time machine one was Donald Trump's great uncle.
What
Uh,
what was his name?
let's see. So I gotta look that up.
Do not tell me it's Barron Trump because that's his son. But I've heard stories. That's a whole nother subject. But
Yeah, the book, right?
yeah, you know what I'm talking about. But anyway, so
Yes. So when I look up this name, um, this trying to think. Uh, I can't find his name. You might have to look up the name for me.
okay.
Uh, it wanted was it John G. Trump? Yeah, it was John G. Trump.
Okay.
Yeah, John. So John George Trump, uh, was an American electrical engineer, inventor, and physicist. Okay, so yeah, this was definitely him. They gave the schematics to this individual, and he came back to the U.S. government saying it can't be done. It can't be duplicated. It's uh, you know it's false, right?
Right.
But then there's that theory that there might be a possibility that actually he just decided to say, hey, I'm going to keep this information for myself and basically, create what Nikola Tesla created and not let the government know. I don't know.
Basically, piss
I mean,
off.
it sounds
Yeah.
no offense, but it sounds like a Trump thing. I'll be honest.
Well, he did become president in 2016, man. I don't know. He might become president again, so I don't know.
Yeah, yeah, but yeah.
Hey,
So I
hold
don't
on, hold on,
exactly.
hold on, hold on. Side note, Back to the Future Part 2. That was a prediction of Trump. Biff?
No, Bifton predicted it.
No, no, but people tied Trump to Biff, Part 2.
Oh my gosh, that's funny. That's
Yeah,
actually
anyway,
funny.
sorry, go ahead. That was dumb. I
Back,
thought about that for reason.
yeah.
Anyways, go ahead.
Yeah, so there was that theory that he had a participation in that. I'm not exactly sure how true that is.
Right.
Maybe it maybe could be a possibility. It's a fun little thought. But you think with all that technology, Trump would have been able to catch the election, him getting supposedly screwed in, right? So if
Listen,
that technology,
everybody. Listen, everybody. Listen. My uncle made a time machine to go back in time to make America great again. You're gonna love it. Beautiful. It's wonderful. Listen, it's great. Okay. So stop asking questions. I'm here to make America great again by one time travel at a time. All right. God bless.
what,
And,
what,
and
what he's going to say. What he's going to say is they're going to put every single one of them at the border. So when they cross the border, they're going to go back in time to a different America. So that
like
way,
son of a Hey, by the way, we're not being political here. We're just having some fun at our own expense. All right. So there we go. All right, so go ahead.
yeah. So yeah. So it's that one's up. That would be a nice little segment too to talk about that in another
Mhm.
podcast to figure out some of the truth behind that, or if that's just an elaborate story to basically just make people feel like Trump's a lot more powerful than he is, I guess, or
Yes,
I don't
man.
know. People come up with wise tales all the time, right? Um, and this is the internet. It's not exactly the safest form of information at times, but
Oh, it's a
it is
blessing and a
definitely
curse.
it
Yeah.
definitely is entertaining.
Oh
Um,
yeah. Oh yeah.
but no, I still think time is a very interesting thing. It's I if I would actually be a little more further into it, I'd actually say time doesn't actually even exist. Okay, like
Okay,
the
so I'm with you on that thought process, because I think it's just an invention, either partially for control purposes because of those factors we talked about. But curious to hear more about your thoughts.
well, I think it's a way for a man to control the outcome of his own destiny,
Hmm.
right? I think men have tried to use something to control their destiny by using this idea that if people don't do a certain thing by a certain you know uh, um, length of events,
Hmm.
that this would occur, right? So they'd have to
Right.
set a date on it. They'd have to say when it would happen, right? So, or
There's some type of fear factor or hope that
it's
win
a it was a
something,
fear, like a fear controlled aspect.
or Miss Cleo on the phone that'll help you. Yeah,
Yeah,
right.
it was a kind of a fear, like a fear based thing, right? Like, I
Well,
don't know. I mean,
and people make money off time. You think about it. Look at the stock market. Look how their predictions are. We predict this. We're predicting that, right? You think about it. People are technically making money off time.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, and it's all they say predictions, but I mean, I think it's planned most of the time with some things.
That's true too. Very
Um,
good point. Yeah.
I think the theory I have about the Bible, about whether you live, how you live in it,
Mhm.
can it control the outcome of your life and how you live your life? One could be in Old Testament, one could be, in the life of Jesus, or one can be in Revelations. And honestly, if I were to be honest with you, Christopher, if I wanted to control a bunch of individuals, in the world, I'd constantly keep them in a state of revelation. I'd constantly keep them in a state of fear, because you keep people in a state of fear and you thinking they're living in that time, you would have way more control over them on what they do and how they live and how they purchase things. It's amazing what fear does to an individual, especially when they feel like they have no time. Then the fear gets in heightened by 100 times more. Okay. um, my belief is, if you live a life as a follower of Christ, you live it consistently, whether he's coming or not. And that way, time doesn't have that effect on you anymore. It no longer has that control of eating you alive. It doesn't have that ability to force you to make these unwise decisions, because now you feel like you got to change everything about your life to make it right at that very moment. Does that make sense? There, you're no longer waiting at the gate, or you're no longer that servant who leaves the front of the gate waiting for his master to return. You're no longer that servant that's trying to rush back when they see the
Right.
master in the distance coming.
Well,
Okay. When you're living as that servant that's always at that front gate, not knowing when your master's return, but just staying there until he does,
right.
you don't live in that fear of like getting caught and not doing your job. Does that make sense?
No, it it
But
it it, it does, and like going back to Christ. I mean, I think you can I can say I think, and I'm thinking I'm not sure if Christ ever talked about time or much of anything, but I think that one thing I know that Jesus did, was led by actions. He didn't worry about time. He was more concerned about moments.
yeah,
You know,
yeah,
and the only thing I think he knows, maybe mentioned, and I'm not I don't have my Bible in front of me, like the devil knows his time is short. His time is short. Christ doesn't live in time. He lives by the moments. He knows what he has to do, right? The devil, he is aggressively trying to take down and hurt God as much as possible because he knows his time is short.
yeah. I mean, if you there is a topic about what God's word basically states about time. One thing I picked up right here was, it says God's word advises us to use our time wisely, because He knows that there are many things in life that can distract us from what truly matters.
Mhm.
Do not waste your time so that you look back with regret. You do not know what tomorrow holds.
Well, you know what? To echo that too is look at the story of Mary and Martha, right? How when Christ was visiting Mary and Martha with Lazarus, I don't know if it's after his death, before his death, where Martha was like trying to get things clean in the house, and Mary was just sitting there listening to Christ, and Martha was just being like, "Why aren't you doing any work?" And Christ was like, "Why are you concerned? What's the rush?" Right? And I love that. I love
Mhm.
the story. It's like, dude, what's the deal? Like, doesn't matter. It's about the moment. It's about being here. It's about being connection. You know,
Yeah.
yeah.
And time, like this conversation about time, it can go in so many different directions. But
Well, oh,
you know,
it
I
can, and you know what? It could go to, and it's funny with my notes and everything. It's funny when I took my notes, like as I usually do. I try to be very organized. I actually moved from writing my notes to putting on on my Google Docs now to be more organized. But because I have different directions that I would like to go with time and missing people in time and missing moments in time. But I'm gonna save that for a later time. Because I don't want to distract
for a later time.
for a later episode potentially. And the reason for that is because I think that I don't want it to take away from what we're talking about here. That's got a lot of great insight and connections.
Yeah.
And I think the key thing here with time and what we're talking about is, we could talk about theories all day, how it's invented, what it means, the fourth dimension, all that stuff. And even on a side note, how it may, with the possibility of other dimensions may, I feel work different in time. They have their own time frame. Is it faster or slower? I have no idea. But the key thing is
Yeah.
no matter what, enjoy these thoughts, enjoy these theories. I think it's great to be inquisitive. But the most important thing I want to stress to people is don't worry about time. Be about the moment. And when it's good, when it's healthy, and when it's loving, enjoy those moments, the big and most importantly, even the little things. You know, when I think about things, I don't look for the big miracles. I look for the little ones. And it's about what happens at that moment that transpires in our hearts. Don't
Yeah.
worry about time. God has that time and control. He invented it. He lives outside of it, right? Enjoy those moments. Don't let time be a distraction. Be responsible, but don't obsess about time.
Yeah. Yeah. And on a lighter note,
Yeah.
before we even end the podcast in any way, shape, or form, I do want to have a fun conversation about time and the
Mhm.
theory of if we actually had a time machine. First off, where would we go and what would we do?
Oh,
So that'd be the first question.
God. Okay. You asking me or are you gonna go first?
You go first because I
Oh,
don't know.
dude, that's not fair, man. Lord. Okay. In honest, where would I go? In all honesty, it would be, I would say, the resurrection of Christ, or any time in Christ,
Okay.
just to experience it. That's where I would go. I'd like to go to Israel and
That
experience.
let's okay. I
Or,
like
or
that
should we
answer.
minus that? Should we minus that?
Yeah,
Because that's a
I
answer.
like that answer, but let's have fun with that's assume Christ said no, you can go everywhere somewhere else, but there you get that one as a
Okay,
freebie.
okay, because that's not
That'll
as
be the
fun.
first place, and then you get a second choice. Let's do
All
your
right,
second
that's
choice
not
out of
that's
that
not
one.
a fun one. Okay.
Yeah.
Jeez, where would I go? Oh my gosh, dude.
First off, you wouldn't go back to high school and try and take your mom
No,
to prom, right?
no, no, no.
Yeah,
I'm not going back to make sure to preserve my existence.
yeah, Marty McFly.
No, I'm not Marty McFly in it. That's not happening. I would, you know what? Okay, I have one here. To go back in time is to go back to 1947, Roswell, New Mexico.
Oh, here we go.
I know. Hey. You can give me the Jesus platform, so I'm choosing that one. So take
Okay, okay,
that.
okay.
Just to answer, to hopefully answer some questions or to see with my own eyes. Okay, so take that. All right. Go. What about you?
All right. Okay. Well, first off, before I'd hop on that time machine and go back to where I wanted to go, I would try to buy as much currency that is dated to the time that I wanted to go to. Okay. So I trade my currency in
Mhm.
for actually, I wouldn't trade my currency in. I'd probably buy a bunch of gold, bunch of silver, one or the other.
Smart.
And that's transferable anytime, right?
Right.
Um, and I'd go back to that time back in like I would say, I would go during a time of my life. Okay, it's hard. I'm trying to explain. Okay, if it wouldn't affect like anyone noticing I was gone here in the future, then
Mhm.
I would spend a couple years in the past before going back. I would spend my time from I would say the late 50s
Okay.
to the early, to the late 60s.
Hmm.
So actually, I would start at 60 and come back at 69 with all my gold. I'd go back and I would purchase pretty much every type of vehicle I've ever wanted during that time frame.
Mm-hmm.
I would buy a piece of property
Mm-hmm.
with a warehouse, have them all stored and locked up. So when I came back to the future and it was under my name, I would have it under my name, like particular, and I would do some type of confirmation, like, I don't know how I would write it in my will that if I already have or if a person would ever be born at this time related to this individual and they named him John, like this crazy will, right?
Right.
And have like, a deed or whatever you would use for that time. And that way, when I come back to the future,
Mm-hmm.
I would have all those vehicles in my possession, and I'd have every car I've ever wanted, from the early '60s to the late '60s.
Right.
Because back in that time, you could buy a car for like $500.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd be spending all kinds of money on those cars, and the reason for that is because I mean, I like cars. I can't. What can I say?
Hey,
and
man.
and it wouldn't even be for the pure value of it. It'd be for the pure fact that no one screwed them up through the time history of time. Or
Right.
through that time where people chopped cars and did all these different things. I would have the original way they were built from the factory in my big old garage, right?
Mhm.
And I would, on the weekends, I'd leisurely, get them all ready to go and take them on drives in the future, one at a time, enjoy them. I'd probably spend each month driving a different one, putting them back and making sure they're well taken care of, and, just give them away, I guess, give them away to, different individuals I feel like, that are worthy of the car, I guess, for free. Just, I don't know, be like the Santa Claus cars.
You really thought about this. Do you have a time machine that I don't know about? Because you really put a lot of thought in this.
I do actually.
You punk.
It's called the toilet.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good, man. I love it. I love it, man.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Okay. Second
Yeah.
question. Second question.
Yeah.
The theory of time. If you go back in time and do something different and you come back, do you think you've created a new parallel universe, or do you think you come back to the same future as you existed in before, just some differences?
If you were to ask me 10, 20 years ago, I think it'd be the same universe. Today's theories and everything, I think it'd be parallel.
Okay.
I just think that there's certain things you can't change, because it's all happening in a moment. Again, in theory, this is my belief in theory. Like right now, I have my mouse on my right side, right by this computer, but then in a different universe, I could have my left side. And no matter what I choose, where I go back to, I think it's more of I can experience it. I can go and back, and if I had the moment to control it, I'm experiencing that moment. But I think no matter what I do, it's going to happen. I think it's kind of like how do I say this? It's basically, to me, it's like what room do I want to live in, or what place do I want to stay in? Those places exist, right? There's a Hilton, there's this other hotel, or there's the Motel 6. It's all they're all there, but they're all rooms, right? But they're different rooms, right? And I have a choice of even what I want to abide into. I think it doesn't matter what I choose. I think they're all going to exist no matter what I do. It just depends what I want to inhabit it. I guess it makes sense.
Yeah. Well, I believe myself that when you go back in time, if you change something, you will go back to a parallel universe that coexists with the universe you're originally from.
Right.
What I mean by that is you're able to see it, but nobody else is. Because you're the only one that acknowledged that you went to the past and changed.
But the thing is our memory going to be an oasis, or is our memory going to change and not notice
No,
it?
Our memory would be the same.
How do we know that? How do we know that's not happened already? How do we know that somebody's done that? You've done it. I've done. I know it sounds silly. It's a theoretical question that we haven't changed something, but now our minds have melded to this universe that we're not recognizing what we did from a different universe, right? You know,
Mhm.
that's changed, right? We changed it for this reason, but our minds are wiped from that prior
I
paradigm.
think I think somehow, some way, the parallel universes touch each other if they are real, and that we do know when something has been done or is going to be done or should be done.
Well, it could be
I
it could
think
be
those are moments of deja vu.
yeah, you know what, dude, synchronicity, man. I was just about that's what I was when I was about to interrupt you. That I was about to say deja vu,
Mhm.
deja vu. That's creepy. You said that because I was about to say that. No joke.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
Wow.
Deja. I've had so much deja vu in my life. It's not even funny. Down to and deja vu. Some people are like, well, it's a place you've been before. So like, no, I've had deja vu where I'm signing a document I've signed before with in the same office
And
but
it's
with a different
specific.
individual.
And it's specific.
Yep. Yeah.
It's not
Exactly.
like
Down
this
to
is
the T.
familiar. It's like this is specific.
So I had one not too long ago
Hmm.
in the HR office,
Hmm.
and I was doing a direct deposit
Hmm.
for my bank account. Okay. And as I was writing it down, Christopher, my account information and stuff like that for the direct deposit, I had a flashback of doing this same exact thing, but at like not even my last job, like just in the same, like almost occurring exactly at the same time that I'd done it before. It's weird.
It makes
Like,
you stop and think for a moment, like, what? You know what I'm saying?
yeah.
Like,
Oh no, no.
pause for a moment.
It was so bad. It was so bad. My deja vu was so bad that I felt myself drift into the deja vu for once in real life, like real time, drift like for longer than 1 second, but like almost like 3 seconds
Hmm.
of experience this. And I've never had that before. And it tripped me out. It tripped me out so bad. I told my HR person, I was like, oh my God. I was like, I'm so sorry. If I paused, I was like, I swear to God, I've done this before, like in the same exact spot.
Yeah.
So dude, it was a trip, bro. It was a freaking trip. Like
I'm
it
with you
tripped
and I
me out
believe
for
it.
so long.
I'm with you and I believe it because I had those moments recently as well. Dude,
Yeah.
told.
And that's too specific, right? It's not like me going to like, going to a place I eat or anything.
It's
Like
like,
this
oh,
was
it's
the
familiar.
same
It
office.
makes you pause. Like I remember these specifics somehow, and it just this happened before.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
100% with you. I'm 100% with you on that.
Yeah. Yeah. It tripped me out, bro. That's for sure. It tripped me out hardcore. And it made me start thinking like, huh, we say deja vu's like places we've been before, things we've done before.
Hmm.
Or or we think
Hmm.
it's a previous memory.
Hmm.
Maybe just our parallel universes are doing exactly the same thing. We're starting to basically form together in a
Right.
way, coexisting together in a way, like in like
Well, it could be like a river where there's rivers that are like maybe they're like they're straight flowing next to each other and sometimes they'll cross streams, right, and then
yeah.
flow
Uh-huh.
separately again and eventually cross streams. That's a possibility too with time.
Well, if that's the truth, it depends where I'm a parallel river that crosses at times with another river.
Uh-huh.
I guess the goal is, if that was true, ultimately, if we wanted to rekindle with other, parallel universes ourselves, because it's let's say it's a need of our soul, right?
Hmm.
Like we're supposed to tie in with every part of us as we can,
Hmm.
the good sides of us, right? The things that create or God created us to be. Maybe in times, for whatever reason, we split off from God's direction and He's trying to guide us back. Maybe those are those moments too.
Hmm.
And eventually, those two streams are supposed to lead to the same big body of water.
Hmm.
Um,
Well
and
said. I just pitched that.
yeah,
That's beautiful. That's well said. I like that. It's about
yeah,
it's the journey, but it's also about what the destination leads to.
yeah.
Journeys be different, but what the destination is the same.
Well, because the devil wants us to dry up. He don't want the rivers to
Mhm.
make it. He wants us to
Right.
dry up. And if he can get any piece of us to dry up, it leaves us hanging, right? It leaves us hanging like a piece of us is missing, constantly missing, until we start to form again and get finally. I mean, heck, that could even be like an after death experience. Who knows?
No, you know what?
Like that could be purgatory itself.
The devil's building a dam, and God's going to find the way to create another passage to get to that same spot, right, to that
Yeah.
river, to
Well,
that lake.
God's known to create things that over flood. So he'll make it to where you find a way.
Yeah.
We should do a conversation about purgatory too by one of these days.
You know,
I have,
I'm very open for that because I know of purgatory. I don't know the full details of it. You know, you hear that it's an invention from the Catholic Church and so forth, and I've never researched enough to really understand it, but I'm really open do something.
I don't necessarily think it is anymore.
Mhm.
I'm starting to believe it actually is a realistic thing. Uh, Now, if people wanted to profit off it, yeah, then totally I can
Well,
see that happening.
there was the indulgences that were paid by the Catholic. The whole thing was like you pay this much money, your family member get a purgatory and get to heaven.
That's no different than the way the Egyptians thought, if you really
Oh,
look at
no,
it.
no, absolutely. We can go on forever with that one too. About, like I talked briefly about prosperity gospel, right?
Yeah.
Same thing. It's the same scam, different, same fruit, different cover and all stuff. It's funny, it's funny. I told grandma one time about grandpa. I was
Uh,
like, there's heaven, there's hell, there's purgatory, and there's grandpa. And I think the devil and God did not know what to do with this guy. And purgatory wouldn't deal with him. So they just kind of sent him to his own place. Yeah, we're good.
yeah, the pizzeria, the mini mart.
Oh yeah, he's got his pizzeria, he's got his mini mart, he's happy. He's got his couch watching John Wayne movies, Bonanza.
Yeah, he liked watching Bonanza. He liked watching Smallville too, by the way.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he liked that towards the end. He likes watching Smallville. I know, right? Isn't that a trip?
Yeah.
Smallville of all
Well,
shows.
it's funny. All right, I don't remember this. When he's asleep and you try to change the channel, he wakes up.
Yeah, that was a trip.
Like, I was watching that. I'm like,
I
dude,
was
you
watching
did
that.
not
I was
watch
watching it.
that.
Don't change the channel.
I was,
Change
I
back.
was, I was, take off my socks. No. I start crying. I'm like, I don't want to do this anymore. Anyway, so anything else you want to add with time? I know I have more other notes on it, but honestly, that could be a whole nother subject. I think we covered quite a bit, but I'm open to see if there's anything else you want to add to it, man.
I just want people to give us their opinion on time. I want people to really reach out and give us their opinion on time,
Yeah.
the way they view it. And I mean, you can, hey, if you have a view of time of just being really this thing that's actually a simple matter, give us a simple but definition of it in your eyes, like that's fine. I'm cool with it. Obviously we all have different ideas of different things. And I don't think anyone has really given us a good, clear definition of the matter, even top scientists. I mean, it's a matter that still fascinates individuals. So, give us your fascinated idea behind it.
Absolutely.
Don't be afraid to reach out.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. Everybody definitely for sure to add on that with add to that what Jonathan was saying is like, yeah, definitely feel free to share your thoughts, theories, your experiences with time, missing time, extra time. If you have extra time experiences, please, I would love to know your secret on that. That'd be great.
Oh,
But
and then
yeah.
freezing time too. That's another one. Well, that's one I forgot to mention. Time freeze,
Oh,
where everything stops. Yep, that has been a
that's
recorded thing. And something I've actually experienced myself, like I've told you in a personal conversation.
yeah.
Same thing, actually, even conversations about Saint Joseph, the father, the adopted father of Jesus, experienced prior to Jesus, time stopping. People freezing around him and like for seconds or moments. I didn't really explain how long, but that's an interesting subject too. So if anyone's ever experienced that, please reach out because I want to know more about that too.
Well, that's gonna, you know what? Absolutely. And you know what, Jonathan, that'll be a part two subject. So we found our first part two. I love that because we could definitely talk about our own personal experience with time and so forth. And one thing I want to add to that too is I would like to talk about with time is with drugs and alcohol and all that stuff because how that affects time, even though it's like, well, it's an inhibitor. But seriously, I want to know the spiritual aspect about it. Yeah, please everybody send us an email to boundtotruth34@gmail.com, boundtotruth34@gmail.com, our Facebook, Bound to Truth. Again, love to hear your thoughts, theories, your experiences. If you want to be a guest, we would love to try to add you as a guest as well. Again, this platform is yours. And we love everybody, man. We appreciate your support, big or small. We really appreciate everybody just to listen, and we are grateful and blessed. And we hope you have a blessed, great day. Anything else?
Nope, that's it. You guys have a good one.
All right. Have a good night, everybody.